Hey everyone, welcome back to Custerdome Productions, and I'm finally doing a pre-Dan demos tier list. I already did this for Can't Buy a Thrill when I did my Can't Buy a Thrill video, and I always meant to get back to this eventually, but I finally found some time to do it. I'm not doing every song that I included in that video because that also included all of the stuff from You Gotta Walk It Like You Talk It and all of the Linda Hoover stuff and a bunch of other songs. I'm only doing the demos in this video, but that is still 34 songs as you can see here, so we're going to be here for a little while, and I'll leave a link to this tier list in the description so you can make your own and you can send it to me if you want. But yeah, fairly simple idea. Just going to be going through these songs in alphabetical order, talking about them, and yeah. Let's jump in. A Horse in Town. Yeah, so A Horse in Town is one of the demos done with Demian, or not done with Demian, but done with the band that came out of Demian, which is the band that Denny Diaz was in with Keith Thomas and John DiCepolo. Anyway, I really like most of these demos. A Horse in Town is definitely no exception. Keith Thomas's vocals are like different. They're not very Steely Dan-y by any means, but I've always really liked the songs he appears on. There's something that just comes out of these full band renditions that you don't get from the sort of more loose demos that are sprinkled throughout here. So I'm probably just going to put A Horse in Town in A tier for now. I really like Horse in Town. A Horse in Town Knuckle Sandwich Take. So yeah, this is one of three alternate takes that were found on a reel called the Knuckle Sandwich Reel. And they're basically very similar versions of these songs, maybe slightly down-tempo or slightly up-tempo. But the quality is just so bad that like you can't really decipher much from them. So I think I'm just going to put these in D tier, all three of them. So that's Horse in Town and also Brain Tap Shuffle and Old Regime on the Knuckle Sandwich renditions. Yeah, they're cool to have, but they're just not high quality enough to really rank amongst the others. A Little With Sugar. So yeah, this is the first of the demos from the era before the Demian era, when it was just Fagan and Becker and Kenny Vance trying to get their demos out there, see if there was any interest and maybe sell some of them. But I don't think this is one of the ones that they were just trying to sell off. This definitely feels a bit more infused with their typical quirkiness. It's got some kind of weird lyrics. It's got like a sort of like approaching the sort of novelistic thing they would end up doing on Steely Dan, but not quite as advanced yet. And neither is the music, obviously, but it can be hard to tell from some of these, and that's going to be a recurring theme in this video, is it's kind of hard to tell with the sort of simplistic nature of some of these demos. But this one, for now, A Little With Sugar, I think I'm going to put in C tier. Android Warehouse. So yeah, this is another one from the Kenny Vance era. And yeah, this is definitely more advanced than some of the other demos, just by virtue of the fact it's got like a little simple drum track going on in there. And it also feels a bit like A Little With Sugar. It feels definitely like a song they weren't just trying to sell off. It feels quirky and sort of weird. Not particularly Dan-esque, but it has got that sci-fi thing going on that obviously Fagan and Becker loved. I'm a big fan of like the verses on this song. It gets stuck in my head sometimes, but I'm not a huge fan of the chorus. So I think for this one, Android Warehouse, I'm going to put it in B. Any World demo. So Any World is a song that I've already had to cover twice in my main series, despite the fact that it's one of my least favourite Steely Dan songs. But I like these demos even less, to be honest. I think, yeah, this one in particular is probably the worst rendition of the three. It's just got this really sort of weird, unnecessary sort of sound that they've got on this electric keyboard that just, like, adds a really weird dimension to the song. The lyrics aren't quite fully fleshed out yet. In fact, nothing about the song is fully fleshed out yet. It is a demo, after all. But, you know, this is probably my least favourite rendition of already a song that I don't care for that much in the Steely Dan catalogue. But I'm going to put it above the Knuckle Sandwich takes because they don't really count. Barrytown demo. So yeah, I think Barrytown is just Fagan at the piano, and it kind of works for Barrytown, which is already not one of their most complex songs anyway. In fact, these pretzel songs, which I think there are three of them, do fare a little bit better from this demo treatment, and it's kind of cool to just hear a sort of stripped back version of the song, but there's nothing too crazy here. So I'm just going to put this in C, I think. The Brain Tap Shuffle. Kind of an iconic Steely Dan pre-Dan demo here. As far as these go, they're obviously obscure, but this is a fairly well-known one. It's one that I'd heard before I even made my video. Really catchy, really fun. It's got a full sort of band rendition going on. Funny lyrics, just sort of weird, off the wall. Sort of like lots of possible interpretations. I've always sort of read it as sort of like a pastiche of like a 50s dance craze, but you can definitely read it as like a drug song. Yeah, this is a really fun one. There's some great guitar playing on this, just by virtue of the fact you've got that whole band there. It just feels inherently more complete, because it is, but it feels like you can just listen to this on its own and not sort of like, it's obviously not fully realized, it's obviously from an earlier stage in their career, but you get a lot more enjoyment out of this one than some of the others, and it stands on its own, I think. So I'm going to put this one in A, and actually I might even put this one in S. Yeah, no, this is our first S tier. I love Brain Tap Shuffle. Brooklyn demo. Actually got 3 Steely Dan tracks coming up, but yeah, Brooklyn's demo. Brooklyn is another song that I'm not that huge on, but I do actually not mind this version of the song. I don't think it's interesting hearing Fagan on lead vocals here. It's definitely got sort of Dylan-y quality to it. He's definitely trying to do a Bob Dylan thing on this. Otherwise, it's fairly similar to the original track, or to the final track, I should say. It's another one where it's cool to see it in sort of early development. It's really interesting to hear a Fagan-led version of a song that he didn't sing in the final product. Very well played. The full band songs are just usually going to rank better than some of the others. And so I might put this one in C. I'm going to put it in front of the Barrytown demo. Yeah. The Caves of Altamira demo. I think in my video I said that this was one of my favourite of the demos that would later be turned into Steely Dan songs, but I think that's just because I love Caves of Altamira so much, the final track. There's nothing really that remarkable about this one. Again, it's just one of the ones where it's Walter and Don sitting at the piano. It's a cool piece of history to have for Steely Dan fans, and I think it definitely serves that purpose very well. But yeah, you just can't really listen to this one on its own so much. So I'm going to put this in front of the Barrytown demo. Charlie Freak demo. Yeah, much the same, to be honest. I think I'm going to put this one behind Barrytown. Yeah, not a whole lot to say here. Come Back Baby. Okay, we got a good run coming up here. I like Come Back Baby quite a bit. It stands on its own. You don't need to appreciate it just as like a piece of historical insight. It's got a couple little quirky things about it, like it's got the Becca Fagan dual vocals, which doesn't happen all that often, and you got John Mazzy playing here rather than DiCepolo, so it's unique for a couple of reasons, and it's also just fun. I would say the lyrics probably let it down a little bit, although I don't care that much about the lyrics if the music's good. But the lyrics are not the most interesting, fairly standard sort of bluesy love song, but the music definitely makes up for that. And I'm going to put this one in A tier, I think, behind Horse in Town. Don't Let Me In. Yeah, this is another really bluesy one, and another one I really like. In fact, this is probably one of my favorites of the entire selection. I think I said in the video that it evokes Pretzel Logic or Katie Lied, and although it's definitely not as advanced as nearly any of the songs on those albums, it's definitely a step in that direction. Very bluesy. Again, not the most fascinating lyrics of the bunch, but, you know, the music definitely makes up for it in this case. I really like Don't Let Me In. In fact, it might even end up being my favourite. I'm going to put it in S tier, ahead of Brain Tap Shuffle. I Can't Function. Yeah, so this is not as good as the previous two, but sort of in a similar vein, actually. I mean, all 3 of these have John Mazzy, which is interesting that they line up in alphabetical order. And you've also got Fagan and Becker on lead vocal duetting again, and also Fagan on saxophone, which is pretty weird. I can see why they brought in other people to do the horns on their albums, because it's not the best performance. But in this case, the lyrics are a lot more Steely Dan-y than the previous 2. You even got like the line that they would use on Daddy Don't Live in That New York City No More about drinking dinner from a paper sack. Definitely just like a complete slob, a complete like nobody, nothing going on in his life. So that's fun. And the song itself isn't bad, but I would say not as good as the previous 2. In fact, I'm going to put this one in B tier. Ida Lee. This is like one of the weirdest songs in the entire selection. I've never really been able to make out what's going on here. Yeah, this is a fairly simple demo. You got Fagan and Becker and some drums. It's kind of got almost like a Josie-esque quality in the lyrics, vaguely anyway. But musically, just not a whole lot going on here. I'm going to put this one in C tier. I'm going to put it at the bottom of C tier, I think. Yeah. Let George Do It. We return to the Keith Thomas songs with one that's got a sort of similar piano riff to Don't Let Me In. So that's a cool like overlap there. Some of these Keith Thomas songs just have a real sort of sense of scale and drama to them, which I think really elevates them. It's just, yeah, stands on its own really well. Got a fun bluesy style to it. Even got like a lyric that they recycled on The Bear, which is a later outtake about Juggernaut at Your Door. All of these Keith Thomas Demian era songs are really fascinating, just like they've got this really unique sound and provide a really interesting sort of window into what Steely Dan could have been if they'd gone down that direction, and also generally just have some more interesting lyrics than some of the earlier demos, very esoteric, definitely moving down that sort of Steely Dan route. There are sort of glimpses that you get from these songs of where they're going, but for the most part, it's a very unique sound, and if you haven't heard these, I would definitely recommend the Demian era Keith Thomas songs as probably, or just the Demian era songs in general as the go-to to if you haven't heard any of these demos before. But that being said, Let George Do It isn't my favourite of these, although it's probably my favourite of the ones we've talked about so far. I'm going to put it in A tier ahead of Horse in Town. The Mock Turtles song. This is like another one of the weirdest ones that they've done. It's a Lewis Carroll Alice in Wonderland song that they have adapted into this sort of like quirky 60s pop tune with Walter Becker singing. Totally bizarre. I can't imagine why they did this. Like what? Maybe they were on drugs. Honestly, I have no idea. But it's fun. It's just a lot of fun. Probably not among my favorites, but it's definitely not among my least favorites either. Just elevated by just this all around, just like this very unique. There's a very unique instrumentation on here. It doesn't sound like any of the other demos, let alone anything else that's ever been made. I think it's just quirky. It's silly. It's a good time, it stands on its own, and it's definitely one to check out if you haven't heard these demos before. And, you know, Walter Becker lead vocals, man. Gotta love it, gotta love it. I'm gonna put this in A tier. I'm gonna put it ahead of Come Back Baby, but behind Horse in Town. More to Come. This song blows, man. I don't know what. This is weird in all the wrong reasons in comparison to Mock Turtles, like weird in all the right reasons. I have no idea what they were doing on More to Come. More to Come is like this. God, I can't even explain it. I don't know what they were thinking. It's just a total failed experiment in whatever they were attempting to do, to be honest. This is easily one of my least favorites. I'm tempted to put this down the very bottom, but I'm going to put it ahead of the Knuckle Sandwich takes. Actually, no, fuck it. I'm going to put it behind everything. I think this is just like a total train wreck. I can't think of anything that this might be one of the worst things they ever recorded. It's just trying to be sort of avant-garde, trying to be quirky and Zappa-esque. I think it's the best exemplification of when they were talking about these tracks later and they sort of disparaged them as being too weird and purposefully oblique and sort of obtuse. It's just impenetrable. It's got nothing really to hold on to. It's, I can't imagine this would rank highly for many people, so bottom for me though. Oh Wow, It's You Again. This is like, yeah, when I said they maybe were trying to sell off some of these songs, this is definitely one of the ones I think of. Really sort of gentle, simplistic love ballad, and not helped by the fact that it hasn't got like the full band playing it. Not really much to talk about in terms of the music or the lyrics. It's interesting to hear these once or twice just to get a feel for like what it would be like if Fagen and Becker wrote these, if they were staff songwriters, but not their most fascinating work. I'm going to put this one in C tier, but at the bottom of C tier because it's cute, but it's not very interesting. Old Regime. Another Keith Thomas track, and like all of them, I really like this song. Kind of reminds me of Change of the Guard. Feels like a bit of a precursor with this song about major political shifting happening to a cheery piano backdrop. Look, I've said this before already, but these full band songs are just elevated by the fact that there's more going on. You can just listen to these on their own, and they're a lot of fun and really interesting too. I'm going to put this in A tier, and I'm going to put it behind Horse in Town, I think. Parker's Band demo. I think this is the final one of the demos that got turned into Steely Dan songs. Yeah, it is. And yeah, like the others, it's not that interesting. These Pretzel ones do fare a bit better than the Any World one. Yeah, like the others, it's kind of just like, it serves an interesting historical purpose, but I can't imagine you would listen to these too much on their own. And yeah, removed of that context, that historical context, there's not a whole lot to discuss or dig into. I'm going to say that this one is, I'm going to say that I like this one slightly better than the Charlie Freak demo too. Roaring of the Lamb. So Roaring of the Lamb would eventually get played on the Linda Hoover record, turned into a full song with a proper rendition, and that's probably the stronger rendition, I think. But that being said, I'm not too crazy about this one. I would say I like it slightly more than Idly and Oh Wow It's You Again. I'm going to put it there for now in C tier. Soul Ram. Keith Thomas again. This, I think, is another one that I'd heard before I even made my video, just by complete coincidence. But you got the mention of Steely Dan in here. You got just, yeah, very oblique lyrics. Not sure at all what these mean, but yeah, really fun playing, really fun songwriting. Keith Thomas's vocals I've always really liked, so I think he does a really good job here. But everyone does a good job. It's a really solid band, I think. And I'm going to put this in front of Horse in Town. Stone Piano. So Stone Piano, and I'm going to talk about the alternate version here, is one of my favourites from the pre-Demian era, but I definitely prefer the alternate version, which is more up-tempo, and I think just a better played version of the song in general is, in my opinion, the definitive version, whereas I think the original version, or the version that we've had for longer, is not so good. I would definitely prefer to listen to the alternate version, which is annoying because it's less widely available, but the Stone Piano original version, I'm going to put in C tier, B tier. I'm going to put it in B tier, and the alternate version I'm going to put in A tier. And I'm going to put it there for now, just behind Soul Ram. Sun Mountain. Another song with two versions, and I'll talk about them at the same time. You've got the Donald Fagen-led version of this song, which is really bizarre, hearing Fagen attempting to hit these super high notes, especially when he's not an experienced vocalist yet, and, you know, not exactly pulling it off, but it's fascinating to hear him try. And then you've got the Vance version, which just has a more complete sort of rendition of the song, and he does a much better job as the vocalist on this very sort of gentle, quite pretty piano ballad, but it's just not as interesting. In either case, I'm not a huge fan of this song. I'm going to actually make the Fagen version slightly higher. I'm going to put them here in C tier, and I'm going to put them right next to each other, with the Vance version coming up just behind. Take It Out on Me. Take It Out on Me is another one that you just get the impression they were just trying to sell off. Pretty simple love song. It's kind of got some like interesting lyrics in that regard, but nothing too crazy. A little bit masochistic, I suppose, but that could just be, you know, reading into it with a Steely Dan fan's eyes, the cynical, bitter eyes of a Steely Dan fan. I'm going to put this one. I think I like it slightly more than Oh Wow It's You Again. Actually, no, I like it slightly less. I'm going to put it behind Oh Wow It's You Again. This Seat's Been Taken. This is much more my speed when it comes to these like pre-Demian pop ballads. It's almost a bit like a Carole King song, which I really like. I think that this is a much better example of their pop songwriting abilities. I think this really fits in well with their whole brill building endeavors. Yeah, I really like the piano line on this, but you've also got some cool little guitar touches from Becca. I think of all of these, like, yeah, early sort of fairly simple, straightforward demos, it's definitely one that stands on its own the best. It doesn't need too much. It doesn't feel in need of a much bigger band or much bigger rendition, although it would be cool to have, obviously. But I'm going to put this one in B tier, actually. Undecided. Is this the final of the Keith Thomas? Yeah, this is the final of the Keith... Well, technically. This is the final of the Demian eras, technically. It's the final Keith Thomas-led song, and probably, I think, the weakest. Although not by a great deal. I think Undecided is cool, but it just doesn't grab me as much as some of the others for whatever reason. Still very fun, and you just get this great sort of sense of coherence from the band. I don't know how long they even played together, but you do get this feeling that they were working quite well together. They had a good system going on. But in this case, I'm just going to put this in B tier. Untitled Instrumental Jam. So this is from the Knuckle Sandwich reel as well, but despite the poor quality, I think it just is too cool to rank in D tier. Really jazzy, sort of like, it's like goes for like 6 or 7 minutes. No lyrics, it's just a fun jam that they go for. I've seen some people say that it reminds them of the Your Gold Teeth 1, or Your Gold Teeth, I should say, which I can definitely hear. I wouldn't go as far as to say it was a direct precursor to that, but you can sort of hear the influence that might have led to that song. I'm going to put it in B tier just because it's so interesting. Yellow Peril. Yellow Peril is probably the song that grew on me the most when I was writing the script for my first video. I really like Yellow Peril now. In fact, I listened to it just the other day on its own. Easily my favourite of those pre-Demian era songs. Got this great sort of sense of drama to it. Fagan actually delivers a really good vocal performance. Fascinating lyrics with these sorts of like historical allusions and these sort of grand narratives happening. Lots of interpretation that can happen here. I think Yellow Peril is one of the strongest songs in this entire video, and I'm going to move it up into S tier. You Go Where I Go. Final one, another fairly standard love song ballad. I'm going to put this in C tier. Yeah, it's definitely in the same vein as Take It Out on Me or Oh Wow It's You Again, and I'm going to rank it similarly. In fact, I think it's my favourite of the three. Yeah. Right, now I just need to tidy this up a little bit. Okay, I think that's good. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. Lots of C ranking songs here, lots of middle ranking songs, but I do generally like these demos. Even the ones I don't like that much, I think are a very interesting insight into the band's history. I think any diehard fan should definitely check all of these out. So from best to worst, my ranking is Don't Let Me In, The Brain Tap Shuffle, Yellow Peril, Let George Do It, Soul Ram, A Horse in Town, Old Regime, Stone Piano Alternate Version, The Mock Turtles Song, Come Back Baby, Android Warehouse, This Seat's Been Taken, Undecided, I Can't Function, Stone Piano, Untitled Instrumental Jam, A Little With Sugar, Brooklyn Demo, Barrytown Demo, The Caves of Altamira Demo, You Go Where I Go, Roaring of the Lamb, Oh Wow It's You Again, Take It Out on Me, Charlie Freak Demo, Ida Lee, Parker's Band Demo, Sun Mountain Kenny Vance version, Any World Demo, A Horse in Town Knuckle Sandwich Take, The Brain Tap Shuffle Knuckle Sandwich Take, Old Regime Knuckle Sandwich Take, more to come. Let me know what you think of my ranking, let me know what you thought of this video, and definitely let me know what your favourite of these are. I think this is one of the most free-flowing ones. I think this is one of the ones where there's just the most opportunities for discussion, because I think that most people would have very different lists within the people that have heard these demos, so definitely do your own, send them to me, let me know what you think in the comments, and yeah, that'll do it from me. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.